everybody, welcome back to the vlog. Thank you once again for joining me for tea time. Today I have a little bit of Misty Morning. This is some really good stuff. You guys have been asking me for this tea for quite some time, and in the next week or so, I'm gonna finally get it out there. So if you want some, you could have some. So guys, something really cool going on here today. I have a special guest and you guys are going to want to hear from him. He is awesome. We've talked in the past. His name is Justice. He's from TabletPro and he just understands, he knows, he gets tablet everything. And I wanted to get him on board today to talk about Adobe Fresco. And is it something that you guys are going to want to use or not? And we're going to get into that a little bit. But before I get him on here, a little bit of housekeeping. We have that photo contest still going on. Head over to community.JCristina.com. Once again, community.JCristina.com. Head over there. We're giving away a brand new bag. It is a think tank bag. It's not even out yet, guys. So you can win something that's not even out. We'll send it right over to you. The contest goes on to the very last day of the month. So head over community.JCristina.com. So anyways, welcome, Justice. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's good to be on the show again. I was excited to spend time chatting with you and going over the new stuff in Adobe Fresco.
Yes, Fresco. Now, I mean, you guys all know that I am that life after Adobe cutting the cord guy, right? Besides the T guy, right? I am the guy that started that whole life after Adobe cutting the cord, and it really blew up. And I always like to look at what Adobe is doing. I'm not a guy that just says, I'm not going to use them and stick my head in the sand and never use them again and have not a clue what's going on. So I took a look at Fresco. And there's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff. And that's what I want to talk to you about and get your opinion and what you think about it and how it works or doesn't work, how it fares when it comes to the software that you guys make over there at TabletPro. So, I mean, let's just get into kind of the beginnings of it, the nitty gritty. I really would like to discuss a couple of the good things first, and then we'll get into the bad and get a little bit of an even keel here, right? We don't want to just bombard them with all of the stuff that I don't like. So to start out with, this is my personal opinion. To start out with, it does use the Sensei brush engine. If you guys know or don't know, Photoshop uses that brush engine and it works fantastic. So the actual brush engine itself is really stellar. It's good. And what's nice is you can bring in those brushes from your Photoshop right into the software, right into Fresco, and use them. So that's really nice. Also, what everyone has been talking about is watercolor, how well it does with watercolors. And it really does, guys. It does really well. And you would think it would because they have so much experience at watercolor and at just brushes in general for years and years. So that's really nice. Also, the brushes themselves in Fresco are a little bit better than, for me, what I think is in ProCreate. Now, I am a ProCreate guy. I use ProCreate almost daily. So I use that as a direct comparison where I know Justice is going to have some other comparisons besides ProCreate, but that's what I use a lot. So it does have better brushes, or let's say textured brushes, in my personal opinion. Also, for the double tap and triple tap, it does have it, just like ProCreate does. It was literally like ripped right out of ProCreate, it seems. Also, the opacities and the sliders and all that is also in ProCreate. They're literally ripped right off. I don't even know. I don't even think they changed anything, but it's good. It's good because it works. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel if something works. But those are more of the good things. What do you think about the good when it comes to Fresco?
What I like, number one, I just want to comment. I appreciate that you don't bury your head in the sand when it comes to new products. I think the whole cutting the cord concept was really about options. People not being trapped into options. Not that we're saying we're not going to use certain things, but that we're not going to be trapped into having to use certain things. So I appreciate that.
Right. Absolutely. There's no reason to like we were just saying, bury your head in the sand and say this is it or that's it and that's all. And a lot of people do that. You'll see. Even in my me talking to everyone out there, a lot of times I'll find people that are just into a specific camera, for example. And if you do not say that camera is just the best camera, they'll just lose it. All right. And that happens a lot because people can't just, distinguish the difference between what they bought and what is truly the best. Maybe you bought it because it was cheaper and it's not really the best, or maybe it just simply is the best. But a lot of people, they justify what they use with the best, and they grab hold of it wholeheartedly. And if you say anything different, they just lose it. So, I think that it's very, very important. Just like you said, it's important to be able to, sit back and say, okay, there is options and they all do different things and they do different things well. The bottom line is using the right tool for the right job. Not one tool is going to work for every job, but knowing which tools work and using those so that you can actually create as creatives and create well and allow the tool to get out of the way. Some tools do and some tools don't, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of categories for best. There can be best in price category. There can be best in speed categories. There can be best in inclusive functionality categories. Adobe's best at having a subscription plan that includes almost every single tool that you need. They're best at that, but that's not what some people want. So that's okay. Exactly. That's all right. As far as Fresco goes, I think it is the fastest drawing program that Adobe's ever made. Like you said, that brush engine is beautiful. They do a fantastic job creating attractive lines, attractive textures, and the watercolor brushes are really cool to watch. And if you've never seen that live brush kind of experience, it's worth it. And check it out. Watch a video on YouTube. We'll include video of Fresco in here as well, so you guys can see what that looks like. But it's a really cool experience. It is not only in Fresco though, and I think that it's important that we talk about what other programs do watercolor really well, because they're not the only one, but they do a great job of that. And I like what you said. There's things in ProCreate that they're doing well, and there's no point in reinventing the wheel for that. They copied over and used some things that, like that double tap and triple tap and the sliders for the brushes and opacity and stuff, that they're in the most logical places. And I like that.
Absolutely. Some of the things that stand out when I tested this software out that I really dislike, when you open up Fresco, instead of like ProCreate, where you end up with like your gallery of work and you just select whatever you want. It's like when you get into Fresco, it almost feels like you're in a paid advertisement of some kind. You got a little thing going on here, a little this, a little video, buy this, a little thing. It doesn't feel slick, let's say. It doesn't feel like your work area. It feels like somebody else's. And then it's downloading all the stuff, out of the cloud. So things are showing up. They're not showing up. You have to wait. If you're not, if you're not plugged in, your Wi-Fi is slow, your internet went down, you end up with like this horrible experience, in my personal opinion. Also, I'm not a fan of the way they work with the brushes themselves. Now, I can only attest to iOS when I tested it, not like for you, you're using Windows, also tablets. Not being able to see like the brush itself and change how that brush appears and whatnot. That was a really big issue for me. I like to see my brush and I like to see it in different styles, and ProCreate allows me to do that. Also, that whole double tapping of the pen erase. We talked before going and having this discussion for the iOS. I know when I tested it, the double tap and erase was basically just an eraser head. You didn't have all of that nice functionality like ProCreate and to dial in your eraser, which you do, according to what you told me, have in the Windows version, which is good. Also, the exporting of those brushes, their brushes are so good, but the thing is if you want to dial them in, you cannot dial them in as, let's say, as granular as you would with ProCreate. Even though they're awesome, you can't. Also, you can't resave them as like a historical brush. Like, this is the brush that I use for oil painting. And, you know, you did all of your settings and you said, you can't do that. I think that that's just stupid, in my personal opinion. They need to fix that. I mean, like why, you know, like it doesn't make a lot of sense why you would do it. Also, the whole double tapping to undo stuff. With ProCreate, you double tap and hold and it goes, brrr, you know, you go straight through history and it goes quick. Here you double tap and you're like, it just, you know, it doesn't feel just fleshed out. You know, it doesn't make sense. Also, no smudge tool. Now, some people be like, you shouldn't use a smudge tool. Well, as artists, smudge tools are nice. It's good to be able to push things around. And that I thought was a problem. Also, the lasso tool, the way it lassos, you can't have like a really granular setting how that lasso looks, you know, how that selection looks. I don't think that's great. Now, on the positive side, I do think that Fresco does allow you to display the selection in different manners, whereas ProCreate only allows you to do one manner, which is kind of nice. But with the new ProCreate 5 that's right around the corner, I'm understanding we have Liquify coming, multiple layer lasso. You have the whole, I think it was fill tool, where you can actually get really specific on the thresholds of the fill, and perspective tool and symmetry tool and all this stuff. So there's a lot going on there. But I was watching a guy. Now, I don't know if you had this experience. I was watching a guy a couple of days ago. I didn't have this experience myself, but he was flipping the canvas. Now, if you guys have ever used a tablet and have, if you're artists, okay? We're constantly flipping the canvas back and forth. We're looking at symmetry, we're flipping things, we're rotating, we're changing things. Well, he was flipping the canvas, and as he was flipping the canvas, the thing was like, and then it's like loading, finally crashed the software. So these kind of things where you just go in there with ProCreate, just spin, flip, spin, where it's just really easy. Like I said, having a tool get out of your way so you could just simply create. I would think that I would see more from a $9 billion market cap company that has a ton of people. Whereas, you know, you have ProCreate, for example, where you have like 12 guys with like 10 bags of, you know, potato chips and Mountain Dew coding, and they're coming up with really good stuff, right? Really good stuff. I mean, for me, I think Adobe should have just brought, you know, they should have just purchased ProCreate and just stuck them in and called it a day. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, they didn't. I don't know why. Maybe they even had an offer out there, and the ProCreate guys said, you know what? Nah, that's all right. You know, we don't want your money. We're going to just keep on banging away at this and see what happens, because they're doing a really, really good job. So I don't know. Those are like some of the bad things that I saw. How about you? You know, where do you stand on this for, you know, all of the work that you've been doing with it?
A lot of the same things. You know, I thought that the lack of a smudge tool or a dry brush, you know, and it's possible that they may have those in there. You know, it could be that they're somewhere in those settings. Right. I really wanted to see more options in the brush customization. Like I didn't, like you, didn't see the option to create a new brush from brushes. It would save the settings that I had, but it was overlapping the brushes that I was importing. I do like...
Exactly.
You can import almost all of Kyle's brushes, which, for those of you familiar with Kyle Webster's brushes, and he's got probably 1,000+ brushes now. They're excellent. In Photoshop, slow. They're a lot of them are slow as mud, but they're beautiful textures, great looking lines, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, you would need a supercomputer to actually get the brushes to work well at any size. You know, really small, no problem. As soon as you start getting bigger and you start seeing your brush, instead of going like this, it's going like this, all of a sudden the whole experience is gone, you know? Yeah,
it takes it from being fun into being mind-numbingly frustrating.
Horrible.
But they took out a lot of the different features in the in what you can adjust in the brushes, which is really too bad. Because to have something that's as fast, and I'm sure it's fast because they took away some of those features, but to remove, the scattering and the ability to adjust what tilt does in so many different ways, and you're not able to do multiple brushes. You can't combine brush heads. If they had the entire exact same brush creation abilities and functions and features inside of Fresco, that would be a game changer, and it would be a completely different experience for me, because you could just create your dry brushes and or your textured oil blenders and all the different ones,
using jitter, scatter, using all of the yeah, absolutely. It would just simply be nice, but like we said, you probably need a supercomputer to be able to do it, because they just the problem with Adobe has always been, and this is one of the reasons why, guys, I got away from them, besides the whole pay to play, rent as you go, pay ad nauseum, never be done with it, pay forever, that whole model, which I don't believe in. But it was also the idea that their software always ran slow. It would work great for a certain part of, a certain period of time, and then all of a sudden it would just fall off a cliff. The same thing with Lightroom. The way they create it, Lightroom's an awesome program. As soon as you get a large gallery of stuff into that, it just dies. It just dies. It just doesn't work well. And they don't fix that. Their stuff runs lethargic, and it just always has. And it's like, I don't know what they do. I don't know. And that's one of the things, the whole innovation with them. I've always said that as soon as they went to a pay-to-play model where you're renting the software and they're getting money from you every single month, they don't care anymore. They do small iterative things, small iterations. They do not do innovations, all right? Very, very few innovations when it comes from Adobe. They just don't. They just fix little things here and there. Why? Because they don't have to. Years ago, what happened? Right, Justice? You would end up, if they wanted you to purchase their $1,200 suite, all right, they have to prove themselves to you that what you're getting is worth the $1,200 investment. Now, they don't have to do it anymore. They just keep getting paid every month. So that is a problem. That's why you see smaller companies like ProCreate guys over there, where there's like a dozen guys, are able to come up with stuff that's even better. And there's only a few people compared to 1,000 people, 10,000 people or more, So it's very interesting what's going on. But we'll see, we'll see how that ends up going.
Yeah, I think Fresco is one of those new types of Adobe products, where they're at version 1.1 on the Windows Store or the Windows environment, and yes, they have a massive company behind it, and so I think that they will get somewhere better. But I do like that this is one of the first programs. I think Adobe XD, yeah, is fantastic. I love that program, and they've been adding features and doing a different process than they've done with Photoshop, and a different process than they've done with Premiere and other programs.
Right.
Adobe XD, and I think actually they're probably just completely different teams running it. It's extremely light, extremely fast, and they do innovate. With Fresco, I think that a lot of that innovation is going to be replaced with supplementation, where they're pulling in features from ProCreate, and I think that's okay. Like you said, not inventing the wheel with that, but it's a different type of program. Like you mentioned, the start screen for Adobe Fresco is weird. It's a different type of experience. Or it feels like a free program that has paid ads in it and has options for in-app purchase and stuff, except for that it's not. It's a paid.
Yeah, and it's even if you paid for it, it still feels like you didn't pay for it. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make you, warm and fuzzy when you're sitting on the couch and, you grab your iPad Pro, and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm in there and I'm working on, let's say, a brand new logo, for example, for this new tea thing that I've been working on, right? Well, that entire logo I did here on the iPad Pro, and I use ProCreate. And some people will say, well, hey, the Fresco does have vector brushes, whereas, ProCreate doesn't. And I say, so what? Okay, the functionality just simply works. I did the design of the logo in here. And I literally took 15 seconds to take that logo into Inkscape, which is a free program, and with a snap of the finger, turned my logo into a vector with basically no fixing that needed to be done. So you had a $9.99 piece of software, which is ProCreate. You have your Inkscape, which is free. All right. And I'm done. I have, I can do lettering. I do my logos. I do all my work. And it doesn't have to be raster. It's just understanding how to use the program. Okay. And then later on, just taking those 15 seconds to convert it into vector and make those modifications. Some people will say, well, I want to do the modifications on the iPad or on a tablet. Well, that's fine if you want to do that, because you could go download a piece of software like AstroPad for like $30 or something and do all of your vector corrections and whatnot right on the tablet and not even have to go to the computer. So there's a lot of things that you can do that you don't have to have a vector brush, but I have to give it to, them for in Fresco having those vector brushes. Are they useful? To some people, yes, but to a lot of people, no. So, it's give take. I want to see vector brushes though in ProCreate, and they're probably working on it. It's a lot of it has to do with getting speed down. And like you were saying, how you feel that the folks over there, their team at Fresco, are using let's say ProCreate as a basis and stealing a lot of things and putting it in there. Like we said, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. That's fine. But I think what they're also doing, Justice, is they're taking a lot of the functionality and a lot of the functions from Photoshop and trying to shoehorn them into a device that has a hell of a lot less processing power. And they're trying to figure out how to do it efficiently. And can they do it? It's going to be difficult. And the reason being is the software itself on the Photoshop side is written like garbage. Okay, it's a big nested mess, and that's why it's so damn slow. And now they have to go and take that nest and shoehorn it into a lean, mean, like you said, how XD is really quick. Yes, because it's ground up, made specifically to be quick. This is ground up, made to be slow. So I think they're going to have a challenge. It's going to be a serious challenge to get Fresco to work as efficiently as we would see Photoshop work. And
I like that they started simple. There wasn't 5,000 different features in here, and most of it just bloated, and which is great. And like you were saying with ProCreate, you can go sit on the couch and do everything you have to do. Affinity Designer for iPad is great. Affinity Designer for Windows tablets is not great for touch unless you're using TabletPro. So you have all the touch shortcuts on the side. But you can,
right.
You really can. You can do all that stuff in that environment, but they have to start out thinking about it from the beginning in order to get it right.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, we haven't even talked about your product, TabletPro, which is just an amazing product that allows you to have all of your functionality on your screen. Almost like a Cintiq, let's call it. Turn your tablet into a mini Cintiq is basically what it does, virtual Cintiq. And it does it so well, and it's so lightweight. It's just a really, really great piece of software. And I think any of you guys that work on a tablet that is a Windows based, you should definitely check that out, because it will just change the game a little bit. It'll change the way you use any of the software. It could be ProCreate, it could be Clip Studios, Painttool Sai, it could be ArtRage, Rebelle 3, whatever it is, any of those software, and just have that overlay from TabletPro in there, and it just simply works. It just makes everything just so much easier. But that's my personal opinion. We haven't talked about your stuff, so I wanted to throw that in there because it is so good.
Yeah, and the whole purpose for the TabletPro company, the whole idea was for digital artists, when we're drawing, is we want to make that drawing process better and better and better. And for programs like Photoshop that were designed to be used with a keyboard and mouse, or with keyboard shortcuts, and we have to talk about Fresco's keyboard shortcuts, the complete lack of keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, the lack thereof, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's one thing to be said, and we talked about this beforehand. There's an app that's called Nebo, and made by MyScript, I think is the name of the company that made it. Great concept, and they did a really good job of making everything pen friendly, but it was not keyboard friendly. They completely cut out the ability to use the keyboard at all. So you can't. This is a note taking app that you can't use the keyboard in. And they can convert script into text faster and better than any sloppy handwriting and like 99% accuracy. But they cut out the ability to use the keyboard. Fresco, same thing. Yeah, you can't even use the undo keyboard shortcut. There's
crazy.
Absolutely zero. Alt key does nothing. Shift key does nothing. And they're just requiring everything to be touch. And I'm hoping that they change that, because there's certain things that are not in those touch. There's a lot of features that people use, and they want to customize the experience. If you're that person who does use that flip of the canvas all
the time,
and there's 80% of the environment or 80% of the artists you're using who don't, and you're like, hey, I need that for this yourself because I have to go into 3 menus, 2 sub menus.
It's ridiculous. And then wait for it to actually flip. Like you're waiting. Like, what is that? Whereas with ProCreate, you're like, boop, bloop, boop, just like this. And you're just working back to the idea of getting out of the way of the creative, allowing the creative just to simply create and not wait. When you're waiting, you're not thinking, you're not creating. You can't wait. That just doesn't work. But, so my question to you is, since this functionality isn't built into the actual software, that means that your software can't, through like an API or whatever, it cannot actually access or do any of those functions.
Make Fresco better. We don't. There's no point in using TabletPro with Fresco.
There you go. Yeah, because it doesn't give you the ability to. Whereas if it gave you the ability, then obviously you can do just like you would on, Painttool Sai and ArtRage and Clip Studio and all the rest of them. You can do it, but yeah, that's once again, that is Adobe, where they're just short-sighted on what they do. They just don't. I really don't think that they get it sometimes. They don't. I feel like they bring in creatives that do X, Y, and Z, but A, B, and C they know nothing about, and they only will program and code for that X, Y, Z, and that's it. And the problem with that is there's so many more people out there, right, that need to do different things and be able to do it well, and they just don't program for it. They don't make software for it, and that's why a lot of people leave and go elsewhere. I tell you what, when I moved from, I'll give you a perfect example real quick. When I moved from Illustrator, I used Illustrator for a decade. I mean, literally forever. I moved over to Affinity, and the difference between the software, even though Illustrator has a few more functions, it has a little bit more functionality, the ease of use and just getting the hell out of the way that the Affinity software does is like night and day. It literally made my life less miserable actually using Illustrator type of work, right? And that's what I do a lot of, coming up with packaging design and there's a lot of stuff that goes on that I need Illustrator. Now I use Public, and it just simply works. It just simply works, and it's easy. It's simple.
And they have the resources to do it, and they haven't done it. And so I think that's where we get this really slow, really, we don't want to ostracize the people who are used to this old process. And so you have this way of doing things that was created in 1988, or whenever Illustrator was first created.
Yeah, it's like forever. Yeah,
same thing, trying not to upset the original users. And
yeah, it's like the GUI, the graphical user interface for that software. It seems like it's the same. It always looks the same, and it's as convoluted as it was 10 years ago as it is today. And, and that's from me using it forever. I mean, more than a decade I've used the software. Now I don't anymore, but it's liberating to be able to create in a vector-based type style piece of software that is not such a freaking mess. That's just not, I mean, I don't even know how else to say it. It's like, I don't want to be rude, but that's just the bottom line. Back to the whole idea, the price. You're looking at $10 for Fresco, right? $10 a month, guys. That's $120 a year. ProCreate, all these other programs, $10 one-time fee. Okay, so if you are someone that likes Fresco and you have, for example, a CC package, like let's say their photography creative suite, okay, if you have that cloud, the Creative Cloud, the CC version of photography or any of the other ones, you're going to get Fresco for free. It's going to be bundled in it. So if you want to test it out, then, absolutely try it out and compare it to others. But I think anyone that wants Fresco and is looking for that type of package that actually has to pay $10 a month for it, I think you'd be just literally just stupid. I mean, literally stupid. $120 for that software a year just doesn't make sense because you're not getting enough from, over other software, like you're talking about Painttool Sai and, Clip Studio and of course, ProCreate that I use, ArtRage, all the rest of them. And they're cheap. Every one of those pieces of software are like under 20, 30 bucks. ProCreate's 10 bucks. So you're looking at one-time costs for stuff that's either equal or better, either on par or better. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. I would say, you can get, I think, a trial version. Try the trial, check it out, see what you think, and kind of move on from there. But I think anyone that tries the trial and then also tries some of the other software that we were talking about will never pay $120 a year for that. Ad nauseum forever, rental software. I cannot see it as of right now. But you did say it is version 1, maybe, 1.1, 1.2, maybe 2.0. Maybe it will become a really great piece of software. But as you said with XD, it needs to be something that is quick. It needs to have a ton of innovation. And what I said, as I think they're going to shoehorn Photoshop crap into it, I just think that it's just never going to happen. I just can't see it becoming better than some of these other software, even though they have a $9 billion market cap with tens of thousands of workers. I just don't see it because their model doesn't go down that path. All right. They just don't work that way, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, the strongest two features that I think Fresco has over the competition is that it's built for the ground up with touch, and it's got that beautiful watercolor brush, that live brush. I think those are the two selling features. However, part of the reason we chose this topic is because Fresco is not the only touch optimized program out there, and that's what we wanted to talk about. In addition, what are the other alternatives? What if you're just a diehard watercolorist and you want to do something, but you don't want to be stuck to a keyboard? How do you do this? What is the best ways to get the same thing done without paying $120 a month for a stripped down potential, and a lot of potential, but stripped down program that you may, $120 a month. If it was $29, yeah, that's
right.
Jump on it.
Yeah, $120. It's $10 a month, $120 a year, but still, you're talking a lot of money over time for sure. I mean, what would you recommend to everyone out there as far as watercolors that your software, your TabletPro software, could go on top of? And turn that tablet into basically a Cintiq? What software would you recommend besides it, and how much would it cost?
Yeah, there's two programs that I think are better for sure, and have a lot more features and are a good price. Rebelle 3 has a fantastic watercolor engine, and you can do it. It has the same type of live water brush thing. So you see the ink moving on the screen and it drying, and you can add more water, just water, and you can splatter things, and you can pull and push, and you can smudge, and it works fantastic with TabletPro. and ArtRage 6 just came out. I remember the first versions of ArtRage is actually the first digital program I used.
I love ArtRage. Yeah.
It's therapeutic. I mean, the way that the colors blend in ArtRage is like nothing else, and it's magical. And both of those programs are less than the $120, and you own them. So I think ArtRage is $79. They occasionally have promotions for somewhere around $50, and I think Rebelle 3 is around $50, and both of them well worth it.
And that's a one-time cost, basically. You're not paying like I said, you're not paying every month forever in perpetuity, never owning anything. And the 1 month when you stop paying it, guess what? Your software goes south, and that's like the end of it, and you don't own it anymore. So basically when you load it up, it says, hey, you want to re-up your subscription so you can, access your stuff, or what do you want to do? What do you want to do? You're like, yeah, okay, I'll keep paying. Okay. Whatever. So how much is your software that would basically turn that tablet into that Cintiq-esque type of experience?
We have our entire suite discounted so that it's the best possible price as $26, $25.99. And it's something that you're not just able to use with ArtRage and Rebelle 3. You can use it with every single program you have on your computer that has keyboard shortcuts. So except for Fresco, unless they add that. And so when we have tools as well as the Artist Pad, which is what we've been talking about, we have Touch Zoom Desktop, which lets you zoom into the entire OS, and game pads and other tools that allow you to do a number of other useful features.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. When I first saw that you showed me how that works and how the feel works, and the whole way that it literally turns a Windows-based tablet into just basically a very expensive Cintiq. I just thought that was like just the coolest thing. I mean, honestly, because, I look at it today, I worked on Cintiqs for many, many years. And the problem, guys, I was strapped to the computer. So, I have a 34-inch wide here in front of me. Then I have another monitor, another one. Then you had the Cintiq, and that was massive. And that stuff's all gone now. It's all gone. The iPad Pro replaced it. So, is there place still for a Cintiq? Yes, but I don't know how they do business these days, honestly, because these options, like we're talking about with your software and one of these other really reasonable pieces of software, it ends up being as good, if not better, than 1,000, 2,000, a very expensive hardware that you are now stuck. You can't go and bring it onto your couch or bring it home from your studio or whatever, or be on the train and actually do your lettering or work on a logo for a client while on the train or the bus or wherever, at a Starbucks or something. You can't do that with a Cintiq or anything. It's just a monstrosity. So really, I mean, I use this all the time. Absolutely all the time. And I just love it. I absolutely love it. And today, the hardware on these tablets they're getting more and more powerful. So they really work. And if a piece of software is made lightweight, it can take advantage of that CPU, that processing power. And I think that's one of the problems that I always see with Adobe is they're not able to take advantage of the processing power because they need so much processing power to do stupid things, like just flipping your canvas while you have to sit and wait while it calculates how to flip the canvas. And when I was watching this guy, I saw him flip the canvas finally after like 10 seconds and then go do a selection. And what he selected was actually something that was like selected from before he flipped it. Did you see that? I'm like, what? Really? So it's like you select an eyeball, you flip it, and now it's a piece of hair, and now you select the hair, and now you're moving an eyeball that doesn't exist. I mean, come on. I mean, like I said, $9 billion company. I mean, get the eyeball. All right? Don't get the hair, or get the hair, not the eyeball. I mean, just stupid stuff. And this is the stuff that we're talking about. And that's what I really like about you, coming and kind of discussing the software that you have, that Tablet Pro, and saying, listen, try it on these other pieces of software and see what you think. And I really do believe if people do try it, they're going to be like, wow, this really, really works. It's like life changing. I mean, it just simply works.
So we use a lot of Surface devices. I like Microsoft. I think they're trying to do a lot of good things, and like everybody who's trying to do good things, there's going to be some fail along the way, and you
sure,
yeah, and you create a new version. So they came out with the Surface Pro X recently, which is this really controversial machine, and it does a lot of things really well, but it doesn't allow for, like, we don't have an ARM based version of Tablet Pro yet. And so
gotcha.
On it. And so I'm trying to test this machine, and I'm trying to go through and trying to adjust things. I'm like, oh man, I forget sometimes how slow everything is when you don't have access to the tools that you're used to.
Right.
Like, this is a really a lot of potential in this machine, and I just cannot get myself to use it. It just sits on the table.
Yeah, it's an expensive purchase that sits there basically.
Then there's options like the Surface Pro 7, like the i5 model for $900 that, like you're talking about with the Wacom Cintiq, it does everything. Like, the selling point of the Cintiq for almost everybody was the express keys.
Right.
Right. It's like you have that ability to use those keyboard shortcuts, and you can customize it. You're like, I need this and I don't need that. And so you can go, okay, well, I wanted to do this and not that. And so that's one of the things that we're excited that we can bring to the table for artists. All right, so that's just a real quick look at what Tablet Pro can do. And if you guys are using something like Adobe Fresco, but you want some more features, you want to use a Fresco-like app, but that you're already familiar with or comfortable with, you don't have to use Adobe Fresco. There are other alternatives. And like the ones I showed you, ArtRage 6, Rebelle 3, and some of the other ones that I'll list, my personal favorites. If you're not using watercolor, Painttool Sai and Clip Studio are awesome. They are fantastic, and they work really, really well in the touch environment with Tablet Pro. So if you want to check that out, I've tried to make the install process as simple as possible. We have a YouTube video that has the download directly in the description of the video. You don't even have to go to our website. And that'll give you access to all the files and all the information you need to get started in about 5 minutes.
Nice. Yeah, you guys definitely have to check it out. I mean, it's something that if you use a tablet, just having that overlay system, it's a game changer. Once again, like I said, it's just being able to get the software out of the way and allow you to simply create easily, just create, and just allow your mind to wander in comparison to your mind having to be busy trying to figure out where's this and where's that and where's this and where's that in comparison to your mind creating. So it's really, really good stuff. And, I appreciate you coming on the program. I think it's awesome. I think there's a lot of folks out there that will really enjoy the software. And, as always, whenever it comes to the Adobe products, I know always people are like, hey, that's the guy that's, the life after Adobe guy. And I am. But like I said before, I always have to look at what they're doing. I cannot stick my head in the sand and say what they're doing is just going to be garbage from that day forward. That's not how it is. I check out their stuff on a regular basis, but I will do it however I need to, through demos or through whatever, but I will not pay them monthly for their stuff anymore. I just simply won't. That being said, I still keep in the know, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on board here, Justice, and show us these, this software that you guys have produced so that we can use alternatives. Because for me, it's all about Adobe alternatives. You don't have to use Adobe. Too many people are out there today that think that the only way that they can be a creative professional Doesn't matter if you're a photographer, an illustrator, a designer, whatever. To be a creative professional, you have to use Adobe software. And the fact of the matter is that is no longer the case. Years ago, well, there could have been a case for that, but it's not the case any longer. There's plenty of alternatives that will allow you to do professional quality work at a single purchase price that you don't have to pay ad nauseum forever, in perpetuity, and rent the software forever and never ever own anything. And like I said, and I did a video on this, when you do stop paying and you shut down that service plan, you are basically done. And I showed guys that before I'd shut down my subscription. I went into Lightroom and Lightroom said, hey, I'm sorry, did you not pay your bill? Would you like to re-up? So yeah, it's kind of disconcerting. And if you are like me and really want to own the software, so-called, let's put quotes in it, because you really never own software. But if you want to own the software, purchase it once, there is definitely a lot of alternatives. So anyways, thank you so much, Justice. I really appreciate you being on, and I'm sure everyone is going to appreciate it too.
Yeah, Joseph, it's always fun talking with you. We have a good time every time that we've talked.
Awesome, awesome. So guys, that's it. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. If you enjoyed the content, please throw me a big thumbs up. That would be awesome. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you get all my content when it becomes available, and click the bell icon around here so when it is available, you will be notified of it. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years. And hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me. That would be awesome. And finally, don't forget, we're still running promo code YT20. Go over to JCristina.com, pick up anything that you want, throw it into your shopping cart, use YT20 promo code, you'll get 20% off everything. Also, grab my ebook, JCristina.com/ebook. Once again, JCristina.com/ebook. Pick it up. How to make sharper images. A lot of great tips and tricks in there, even for pros. Check it out. So that's it, guys. I'm out of here for the end of the vlog. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, and many blessings to every one of you.